In today's episode of the Paragon Presents podcast, I have an interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Brian Yam, who is hailing over as the head of marketing at Paragon. And if you are into integrations between SaaS platforms, this episode is definitely going to be for you. I mean, I don't know if I haven't met any marketer who is not all about integrating tools with other tools and optimizing their workflows. So this conversation should be pretty much for you guys. Today, we're going to be learning what that actually means, to which degree Paragon provides integrations, and also how Brian thinks about growth for the company. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Very good. Yeah. So give us, a 360 overview. What is, Paragon all about?
Yeah, definitely. So Paragon is an embedded integration platform that enables product and engineering teams, actually, B2B SaaS companies to deliver integrations for their users significantly faster by offering a set of tools such as low code, but also, highly extensibility from a developer perspective. Just to simplify the development process and also offload the maintenance of these integrations. So, as marketers, we use tools like Zapier all the time, right? We have all these tools that we're onboarding for, our MarTech stack, and a lot of them are not integrated, unfortunately. And so we're forced to build these ourselves, right? Things can break sometimes. And every time we make a little change, we have to go into Zapier or whatever tool you may be using as an end user to integrate our platforms. What Paragon does is targets the platforms themselves and says, hey, why are you making your customers pay, first of all, for a tool like Zapier or other integration tools to build their own integrations that they then have to maintain on their own and, probably make mistakes doing so. Why don't you just provide that out of the box, single click for your customers? So we essentially target the companies and we aim to connect the SaaS ecosystem, which is, our ultimate vision, right? Such that all the apps are fully integrated out of the box. And so anyone can plug and play the SaaS apps that they need for their stack.
That's fantastic. So do you, just for me to understand that fully, do you see then sort of it moving towards, when you're building a SaaS product, you're actually plugging in those native, or I call them maybe deeper integrations versus a Zapier integration, and it's just a plug and play solution. I have like my 10 integrations within my product and just can connect them easily with the other ones that I want to.
Exactly. Yeah.
Super cool. Very interesting stuff. So who's using it? Which types of products are coming on board the fastest? Which industries? Where do you see sort of, adoption for Paragon the fastest?
Yeah, so we're definitely seeing a wide gamut. I mean, there's a clear use case for early stage startups, right? Because for earlier stage, they're just trying to build their core product, right? They're trying to come onto the market with something that's very differentiated. And integrations are generally thought of as like an afterthought, right? It's always backlogged, it's always deprioritized because they want to make their product unique, and most of their resources should fairly be going towards that. But what happens is as soon as they launch their product, they start getting requests, right? Well, great, I would love your product, but my CRM is HubSpot. Can you integrate, because I don't want to have to manage all these different platforms. Or some people even like maybe forced to upload or import CSVs, right? Just to get data from their CRM. It's just not a great experience. And so really quickly, they realize the importance of integrations, almost as a gatekeeper in certain scenarios, right? And so we see a really big play there because they just don't have the resources, right? They're fully charging towards building their own product and getting that to market. And they need a quick way to get integrations up and running. For certain other use cases, so more mid-market, what we typically see is that they've built a couple integrations already, and they just realize how much time it takes, right? And it's always a trade-off. Like, we're all SaaS companies here. Developers are very valuable resources, right? Their time is extremely valuable. So it's really, is their time better spent, 4 to 6 weeks or more on a single integration like Slack that sends a notification, or should they be just spending that time pushing towards their own, again, differentiating product feature roadmap? And so we really see varying use cases. I think as we move up market, we're seeing the more integrations that they can build or want to build on Paragon, the more value there is, right? Because you're onboarding a platform. So if you're only building one integration, you might as well just build it yourself, right? I'm just going to say, like, there's no point in getting a whole platform, paying for it if you're only going to build one integration. But most companies don't want that, right? They do envision, you see the HubSpots of the world, you see the yeah, the HubSpot, the Zooms, like they have these massive integration marketplaces, right? Where people start building on their platform. And so a lot of SaaS companies that we work with, aspire to be that way. And so the more they can build and quickly on our platform, the more of a platform they become versus just a single siloed app, right? In their customers stack.
So just so everybody who's also listening in, and including myself, is getting that right. That means going with Paragon would mean you can still be part of the app marketplace while not having to do all the heavy lifting of, for example, a HubSpot, a Salesforce.
No, not necessarily. No. So, sorry. Yes, they allow people to list on, right? Like list on HubSpot much more easily and build that integration much more easily.
Yeah. Very cool. Very, very nice. Okay. So now the question is, how do people hear about Paragon? What's sort of the key client acquisition channels that you guys have been sort of learning and discovering about?
Yeah. So fortunately or unfortunately, we've been very paid driven, right? So we are venture backed, which allows us to have that luxury a little bit. Funny story, when I first started working with Paragon, I was working at an agency and they were just one of our clients. And so they kind of onboarded us as like, hey, you're a growth agency, help us, figure out how we can get a lead engine built, right? So that's kind of the inception. So that was how we started. Obviously over time, I ended up becoming full-time and in-house, which is a separate story, but we've been paid, since the beginning. And that has changed within paid quite a bit. From, we started out very heavy on Facebook, and then, iOS 14 hit and everything stopped working there. And now we're primarily, promoting ourselves on LinkedIn, and that's been working pretty well for us and very consistently as well. What I would say is that our space is relatively new. Integrations, like, you probably thought we were like a Zapier when we first started talking. Right. And that's something we run up against quite often, where people always default to, okay, if I'm not building it myself, I'm probably going to build a connector on Zapier so that people can build an integration. Right. And that's the extent of what they think is out there and exists. And so our way of kind of getting the word like, hey, there's actually a different type of solution out there now. It's been paid in terms as a way to accelerate that process of building the category, right, and educating the audience that, hey, no, there are now new solutions out there that can help you accelerate your roadmap. So paid has definitely been a nice way to boost that, but over time we are definitely working on content, and that's a space we're still navigating because it's so close to the Zapiers of the world, where when you think about search intent, people don't differentiate how they're searching. And so that's a consistent challenge we're up against, but definitely really excited to continue exploring. Yeah.
Super interesting. I mean, it's very true. Like even in my head, there was like, that is not a very clear conception of differentiation. When we started, now it's becoming clearer and clearer. That's super interesting. What I'm curious about, you mentioned paid quite a bit. We've been speaking about retargeting quite a bit on the show recently, and third-party cookies going to be going away middle of next year. What role does retargeting play for example, a startup like yours that is heavily on the paid side? Does it play a role, or is it more an afterthought? What's your stance on that?
Yeah, initially I would say it's always something you have running, but you're not paying enough attention to. I think that's oftentimes what happens. It's it's the easiest thing to start because you're like, let me throw the pixel on, start retargeting. You're not really being intentional about it, right? It's just one of those things, at least in my experience, what I've seen is like, you just have it going, and then you're focused on, okay, how do I get the rest of the market, right? Because no one knows about me. So who am I retargeting? Nobody, right? If you have 3 site visitors, you're retargeting the same people. So lately, more and more, I'm focusing more on retargeting because the condition, or I guess the prerequisite for that, was making sure my broader targeting was accurate, right? And so with LinkedIn, which is why it's working very well for us, I only use custom audiences, right? So I have a list of companies I'm going after. Broadly speaking, it's, I'm not manually handpicking, but for the most part. And that took a couple months to really refine to get to a place where I'm now confident, 95% of my budget is in front of the right people, right? Being spent on impressions on the right people. So now I know that, the people who are engaging with my ads are also the right people, right? So like I'm slowly moving down. And at that point, because cookies are not the most reliable right now, I'm actually running a lot of lead gen campaigns, lead form campaigns. and not a lot of people don't fill it out, right? I mean, unfortunately, and something we're still working on is the click to form fill is very low, right? But what's working really well is on LinkedIn, you can actually retarget people who have opened your form, right? And so that's kind of how I approach retargeting now, where I usually use more top of funnel content to get them engaged, and if they don't follow through, then I retarget them with different content.
Gotcha. Super interesting. What's your take on the website? I mean, obviously, if you're running ads and paid, the website plays a key role. Typically marketers are always super critical with the website. Like, where do you see sort of like a major strength of the page at the moment, versus where do you see sort of room for improvement?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there's always room for improvement on the website. I think it's more of a prioritization and effort discussion right now in terms of like where are we placing our efforts. But one of the strengths, I mean, I think the design is really nice. We have recently iterated on it, but I'm a true believer that copy is more impactful than any design could be, right? So I think from a copywriting perspective, there's always more work to be done. There's always more research to be done with our customers and our prospects to really understand what is the biggest pain point for them, right? Because I think we still hear varying things from different customers, different prospects, but really nailing down like a very specific pain point. I think that is still something we need to work towards on our website. And also, providing pathways for people to get a more personalized experience, because we target both product managers, and so product managers, I would say engineering leadership, as well as developers, right? And they have very different ways of evaluating a product. They are concerned about different things. And so how are we able to allow them to self-select, right, a journey? That's something that I want to work on. Because right now it's kind of, here's all this information, do with it what you may, right? You can explore the docs, you figure it out. But I think creating a more guided experience with, I know PathMonk does as well and helps with. I think that's definitely kind of the next iteration of the website. But the customers page was a huge one for me. I think that was very important to launch because everyone has a website nowadays. The website's not a differentiator, right? And so you can't really build trust with just a website with some text and some nice looking images anymore, right? Anyone can get up and running with a nice template with Webflow. And so there is almost a lack of trust now when you see a website, because there's no barrier to entry. And so in my opinion, it's like, how do we build trust with our brand and credibility in a space that no one really knows about? And having customer stories is like one of the best ways, I think, to do that.
Very cool. Awesome. As we're slowly approaching the end of the interview, would love to jump into our rapid fire questions. Are you ready for those?
All right, let's do it.
Very cool. What's the last book you read or the last podcast you listened to?
Oh, I listen to Nathan Latka's podcast quite often. Yeah.
What is one single thing your company is focused on the most at the moment?
So from a marketing perspective, I think content is our next big push, right? We want to establish our thought leadership in the space. And so that's the strategic side. And then on the platform side, obviously offering more connectors for our customers and just continually to improve the developer experience.
If there would be no boundaries in tech, everything is possible, what's the one thing that you would fix for your role today?
That's a good question. Attribution tracking. I mean, that's
classic.
It works, but it's not the best use of my time. Yeah, I'd say that.
What's the last thing that kept you awake at night about the company?
Awake at night? Just excited about the growth. I mean, I think that it's not very often to have the opportunity to be so early in a category, I think. And that's a very exciting prospect for me because we get to define where the category goes in a sense, right? So that keeps me up in a good way.
And if we would go back to the days of Western University, right? You're heading, you're heading out there, you're heading out of formal education into the world of your career. So what's the one advice you would give yourself?
Yeah, it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. Just enjoy it. I think those days, I had a lot of fun, and I think I would do it all the same. But just really enjoy that time, because you don't get the opportunity to be surrounded with so many people who may share your interests, right? And like are all working hard towards, the prospect of building a career or starting a career. And once you start your career, things change and you have a lot more responsibilities. But yeah, meet lots of different people, put yourself out there, and yeah, just enjoy that time.
Cool. Brian, I really appreciate you took the time with us today to be guest on the Pathmark Presents show. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be forgetting all that we discussed today about Paragon, what's the one thing they should remember?
An integrated SaaS ecosystem is the future. No one wants to deal with separate systems, right? We all want everything in one place, tailored to our own specific tech stack. And so, yeah, I hope that, if you're a B2B SaaS company, check us out. Integrations are a key part of growth that's often undervalued. And as an end user, if we do well, then hopefully the end user experience across all our apps is only going to get better.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Pathmark Presents.
All right, thanks.